You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV Spartacus After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV Spartacus After Show.
Woo! Hey, everybody. Bing is for doing, and here we are doing another awesome AFTERBUZZ TV show for Spartacus. Season 3, Episode 2, Wolves at the Gate. I am your host, Sean O, and I'm joined here by my lovely and spicy co-host.
Hey guys, I'm Spicy Mighty, keeping it sizzling in here.
And this was a great episode, I must say.
It was. Spartacus is just getting better and better. And this episode, which is funny because the title, we were just talking about wolves last episode, and this one is Wolves at the Gate, which is ironic because we said that we feel as if the main characters this season are like wolves and not so much like snakes. Isn't that crazy?
That's right. The main antagonist against Spartacus, Marcus Crassus, and then now we have Caesar, Tiberius. They're like a bunch of wolves now. These guys are not to be trifled with.
Right.
And we have a bunch to talk about, including them. Of course, we're going to talk about how Caesar's introduced and his little bit of a conflict with the Crassus's son, Tiberius.
Correct.
And then we're going to be talking about how Spartacus takes the city, and we get introduced to Laeta and her husband, the Adel of the city. I don't know what Adel means, but I'm sure it's I'm sure it's some kind of title. I'm thinking now every time I hear it, I'm thinking Adele, the
That's
singer.
what I was thinking. That's what I think of.
And lastly, we'll talk about Core and Crassus. We'll wrap up with some news and gossip and predictions after that.
Sounds good. So let's jump right into it. Caesar,
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I hear Caesar.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so Caesar is introduced, and let's see, what was his name? His name is Todd LaSance, I believe. Yes, Todd LaSance is the actor who plays Caesar.
And Todd is mighty fine.
He's probably the best looking guy on the show right now.
Yeah, we definitely needed that eye candy back. We got used to, Gannicus and looking at Spartacus. So now we have Caesar, who is just beautiful. He's flawless.
He's got those like steely blue eyes that just like pierce right through you.
Oh my God.
He's got the cool little goatee. I feel like they're gonna shave it off or like trim it down later on in the season.
I think that there's a purpose why he's staying hairy, because I think too, when you aren't clean face, you look more like a rebel. You look I know it's something to do with respect, and that's why. And he's supposed to be cleaned up when he comes back from battle or something like that. And I know that there's a reason behind why Marcus won't have him shaved.
That's a good point. Maybe they don't want him to look like a Roman quite yet. Perhaps we should talk about this more in predictions. But let's get it out of my mind right now. Because you brought up a good point. Maybe the reason Crassus, he is calculating. Maybe he wants to do some kind of weird tactic, like he wants Caesar to maintain his facial hair and his messed up long dreads, or not dreads,
his
but
locks,
his long locks, so that maybe he can be a spy and like blend in, like the way Spartacus is like always changing outfits and being like undercover. Maybe they want to take not the non-traditional Roman stance and have Caesar and maybe Tiberius like go and try to pretend to be rebels or slaves.
I can see that. That's a great AfterBuzz prediction. Sorry guys, we moved ahead predicting, but that was a really good one. Sean had to get it out there because I can totally see that happening. So we'll keep that in mind because we've been pretty good with our predictions thus far.
Anyway, we get introduced to Caesar,
to the dreamy Caesar,
and he's waiting, right? And he's getting impatient to be talked to by Crassus, right? Crassus is buying some weapons and armory from some dealer, an arms dealer, right? And why does Caesar get in fight with the guards?
Just because he's a rebel without a cause, he's a badass and he wants to flex his power and his guns and starts, brawling with the guys. And of course, Marcus Crassus comes and sees him fighting with them. But we also see that there's this relationship that he has with Tiberius as well. There's a little bit of rivalry going on there as well.
There's headbutting.
Yeah, because when Tiberius hears that Caesar's here, he gets a little defensive.
And he didn't know. His father didn't tell him, which is pretty funny.
And he knows that he's a threat to his power and to his title. He's so concerned with the title. And also as well, there's a relationship going on with Caesar and Marcus Crassus' slave.
Yes, that's right. Caesar was getting groomed and being washed and bathed, which he probably hadn't done in a while.
There's always a bathing scene that is oh so hot.
Of course they had to do it, and they had to have like the cute slave girls, topless, completely naked, obviously, actually, and bathing Caesar. And he wanted to shave his beard, but Core said not to shave it by order of Crassus, right? So Corey comes closer at the command of Caesar, but then she doesn't like what he's doing, and then he starts like taking off her clothing and like kissing her. And how did you feel she felt in that situation?
Well, I knew that she was uncomfortable because it's obvious there's been this sexual tension between her and Marcus for a while, so we kind of knew that there was an underlying relationship that they just hadn't blatantly put out there for us yet. So we knew that he was crossing the line. And unfortunately for a slave, you have to do whatever or whomever is superior to you tells you.
Pretty much any Roman.
Yes. And so she was about to be taken by Caesar.
She was about to be raped, violated by Caesar.
Right. And so, but see, they wouldn't consider it rape because it's law that free willingly you have to give yourself if you're ordered to, and Caesar was ordering her to.
Exactly.
And so luckily Marcus caught her just in time. But when she goes fleeing, after Marcus sends her away, that's when Tiberius sees her, and once again there becomes another feud because Caesar, now you're going after my slave girl as well. And you can kind of tell that Tiberius
he has an affection towards her.
He's fond towards Cora. How do I say it?
Core.
He's fond towards Core. And now there's another reason not to like Caesar.
And what's interesting is that in the first episode, it seems like Core and Tiberius have like a mother and son kind of relationship.
It does seem like that.
But now it seems almost like, in this episode, it seemed almost like, because she was so what's the word I'm looking for? Like she couldn't defend herself.
Right.
She was so vulnerable against Caesar. It seemed almost like they were peers now, like almost like she was like a bigger sister maybe, as opposed to mother, like last time.
Yeah.
So now obviously Tiberius gets pissed off and he finds out that Caesar's there. He brings it up to his mother, to his father, and then he gets to see him finally, which was an interesting scene.
And I thought that it was interesting too that Marcus's wife wasn't as cruel to Core as I thought that she would be, knowing that she is possibly sleeping with her husband. When she was assaulted by Caesar, I mean, she kind of blamed it on her. Well, look at you, of course he's going to come for you. But we've seen previous Dominuses be, or Dominaeus, how was it? Dominus. We've seen previous Dominas be far more evil and mean and spiteful. So I thought that she gave it to her pretty easy.
Yeah, Ilithia and Lucretia,
both of them.
By far, they were like 20 times worse than Crassus' wife.
Yeah, she actually seems far nicer than them.
She's very nice, and she's kind of naive in a way too, because even though she suspects that there's a bit of a sultry affair going on, it had not been shown yet to us.
Right.
And maybe she hasn't seen direct evidence of it, but she just kind of has that suspicion, and she just like lets it go.
Right.
Maybe they don't want to play that. Maybe Stephen DeKnight and the other writers don't want to have like another kind of relationship like Ilithia and Lucretia this time, in this season, because they want to focus on other things.
Right. Well, we start to see that Tiberius now has several reasons not to like Caesar. He's already feeling like his position, his title is a threat, which it is now that Caesar's there.
It's in jeopardy, yeah.
But what Caesar is doing is sabotaging his own self because he's pushing several buttons of Marcus where he's going to wind up regretting it, because we're going to see a shift of power where he was going to give it to Caesar and then he winds up giving it to Tiberius. And so I totally think that Caesar is going to cross the line on all accords. He's, more of the rebel. He doesn't probably follow order. He's probably what would be our Gannicus in
probably what Gannicus, the equivalent of Gannicus to Spartacus' crew,
exactly.
or maybe even way back when Crassus and Spartacus were first they hadn't gotten along yet when they first met each other. They butted heads in a way,
right.
But during season 2, the Vengeance, when they were still Spartacus was in charge, but Crassus was like, okay, I'm following you, but it's just because I want everybody to have the freedom, right? And they still butt heads a little bit, but one is clearly the leader in the case. Let's talk about actually Caesar and what was going on with his weird pleasures.
So that was, I don't know if I would deem that the spicy scene of the episode, because usually we have a hot, intense sex scene. We didn't get that this episode.
We didn't.
There was no penetration of any sort this episode.
No, there was penetration. There was penetration with that knife that the slave was using on Caesar's. What was she cutting?
But I'm just saying, as far as sex is concerned, we didn't get to see that hot sex scene that we always get. We saw, some tits and ass this episode, but we didn't get that intense, passionate lovemaking scene. What we saw was kind of it
was like a weird fetish.
It was very, I don't know, I don't want to say it was dark, but it was very...
definitely not the norm.
It was kind of kooky because he's getting pleasure from being cut and bleeding at the same time while he's getting bobble. And for those of you who don't know what bobble is, it looked like he was getting head.
He was getting fellatio.
Yeah, that's the more appropriate term. But
yeah, so he was getting a blowjob pretty much from one of the slaves. I was like, oh, is that Corey again? But it couldn't have been because they just had that conversation. So it was another slave girl giving Caesar head, and she was cutting him. I hope she was just cutting him in the leg or something.
I feel like she was probably cutting his inner thigh, because that's a soft part that bleeds easily.
That's a good point.
And so Tiberius, when he walked in and he saw that, he even acknowledged his weird fetishes. He's like, I'm not even familiar with this, whatever you have going on, but
even Tiberius said that. Even Crassus actually mentioned to him in scenes before that, hey, you need to get more civilized again because you haven't been here around us Romans for very long.
Right. But I do want to address how Marcus Crassus and Caesar's relationship is coming about and why it's forming. These two need each other from what it appears to be. Marcus has the financial wealth, and apparently Caesar has the title and the reputation. So they
balance each
other out. So they're collaborating and joining forces in order to take down Spartacus. And so it looks as if he does need help after all, because he took out the other two, I don't know if they were governors or...
Oh, the other praetors, the general guys.
Yeah, because he wanted all the power. But now it looks like he actually does need help, and he's going to be sharing his power after all. So he's joining forces with Caesar.
But he always needs somebody he can control.
Right.
So that's why he has a son with him, and he has Caesar. Caesar is a feral wolf in a way, like he's a wild animal, but he has no wealth. He has no money, and that's why Crassus has promised him this. He was like, you fight with me, we kill Spartacus together, we both get more, even though you have the name and the power, we both get more power, and I'm going to alleviate all your debt that you have.
And isn't that the perfect combination?
Exactly.
The fair exchange of money and power. Yeah. But also, too, I want to see, they kind of set us up to show that he can fight a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want to see his swordsmanship. I want to see if he can really fight and go up against someone like Spartacus. Is he trained with gladiators like Marcus Crassus has been? Because he's been training for a while in order to fight Spartacus. I want to see what Caesar's fighting skills are.
Well, we know that we obviously, like you mentioned, we haven't seen Caesar fight with a sword, a gladius, yet. But we did see him get down and dirty with his fists and all these crazy, like MMA moves, just on those guards that were there in the house.
That's what it looked like, MMA moves.
Yeah. So he was able to do that stuff. That's not a typical Roman. This guy is dangerous as well, and I feel like he's probably gonna kill a lot of the rebels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Marcus already addressed him as a wolf. He said, to bring Spartacus to ground, I must have a wolf at my side. And so that lets us know that Caesar's probably more of a threat than we think, than what they've shown us thus far. Because we already know that there also is this animosity and tension even between him and Marcus, because he was going to take his main slave. He was going to take his woman. And we'll talk about the introduction of Marcus and Corey's relationship in a second, where they finally revealed it to us. But one thing is, he's taking his woman, he's threatening his son's position of power, and he also has financial wealth to gain. So somewhere along the line, I think that we're going to see that Caesar can't be trusted. There's too much that he wants and has a need for.
You're right. I think you're absolutely right. But I'll tell you what can be trusted, our podcast. Go ahead, everybody, and download our podcast. Type in Spartacus into the search bar, and our podcast is going to be like the first or second one to pop up. So download the AFTERBUZZ TV Spartacus podcast, subscribe to it, so you can get a podcast every time we put one out. Additionally, don't forget to rate and comment us. You know, we always give like shout outs and stuff. Give us 5 stars and tell a friend, because it only takes a minute, right, Spicy?
Right. Only takes a quick minute.
It only takes us a minute, like less than that. It takes a few seconds to tell a friend. Like, hey, check out the, oh, I love this podcast. It's AFTERBUZZ TV Spartacus.
Right. And so, and let us know too what you guys, if there's any topics that you guys want us to bring up, anything you want us to address. I got some tweets the other day from some stuff that Sean and I had commented on. So please do let us know your thoughts and opinions on the episode as well. And I want to get into now Marcus and Corey's love affair that they have going on. What is it with, the Dominus always messing around with his main slave? Like,
he gets tired of his wife.
Woman. Yeah, but this is like as his wife. Back in this time, you just can't allow your man to have a slave, because regardless, he's gonna sleep with him. I mean, this is someone he's obviously having an affair with, and it looks as if he has a actual love and he's very fond of her.
Yeah, what was really fascinating is how he spoke with her, and with his wife. Let's go ahead and put that to the side real quick. But with his wife, she wanted to come along with him and follow him in the group of slaves, pretty much, which follow all the Roman praetors, the generals, the commanders of the army. And he was like, no, I don't want you to do that. Don't soil yourself, and I don't want you to be safe. I mean, excuse me, I want you to be safe. I don't want you to be in danger by coming on the road with us. Right. But then with Corey, we know the real reason he didn't want to have his wife there. And the wife
knew it too. She was like, "Are you sure these are the only reasons?"
Yes.
And then we see, cut to scene with him and Corey, where he's telling her, no, I want you to come. If you want to come, that is an option. And this is not from, master to slave. This is from, man to woman. And so she says, yes, of course, I want to be by your side. I want to be near you.
And she even calls him by his first name.
Right.
Which was that's pretty intimate for a slave to be able to call their master by the first name.
Right. And he also, not only is he asking her opinion about how she feels and what she wants to do, but he's saying, I prefer your embrace. I want you. So obviously their relationship is very close. And I think that there is a love there. And then we see, of course, them finally make love. It's confirmed this episode that they're having an affair.
Absolutely.
And that, he's cheating on his wife.
He did the same thing, the same move that Caesar was doing, only this time it was more welcomed, where he's
pulled that same little string.
And it just dropped the clothing down, and he goes into her embrace, and it's maybe next episode, it's going to show them actually doing it in the tent or something when they're on the road.
Oh, yeah, that would be hot.
That would be pretty
Because I thought that we were going to get, I thought we were going to be able to see a little something, but this episode was more fighting than it was sexual.
It was. Corey actually reminds me of Onemaeus' wife. Do you remember her?
Yes.
The way she looks, her appearance, and kind of her innocence and the way she acts, it reminds me of that.
Yeah, that definitely, I can see that. And of course that is, who... when he's not with his wife, is by his side. But she also looks like he listens to her. I can see him taking, I guess, ear with her. I don't know how you would say it, but it looks like
counsel.
It sounds like he listens to her opinion, and so does Tiberius. Because usually they wouldn't have so much concern for a slave. So I wonder if Tiberius knows that his father is sleeping with her as well.
How weird would it be if Tiberius was actually in love with Corey? And then he finds out that his father Crassus is sleeping with Corey.
Well, you predicted that Tiberius was in love with his best friend before.
That's true. That's a good point.
So is he in love with his best friend or with Corey?
What if he's bisexual? What if he likes both of them?
I wouldn't be surprised for back then in that time.
Exactly. The Romans, they had some sexual pleasures which were a little bit questionable by today's standards, by mainstream standards, rather.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we see on the other flip side, Spartacus preparing to take over this city, and the name of this city is Sunessa and Valley. Am I saying right?
Yeah,
Sunessa and Valley.
Sunessa and Valley, I think that's.
And so we start to see
Sinuessa and Valley.
Sinuessa in Valley, and we start to see Spartacus preparing to take over this city
because they need it for their army, which is starving at the moment, and
Right.
it's about to be wintertime.
Right. And so, which is a genius idea because they do need shelter, they do need food, and they also hate the Romans. So why not take down the Romans in order to get it?
Why not cleave a Roman city from its flesh?
Correct. So we start to see them prepare, and they sneak into the city and start to.
They're disarmed at first.
Right.
So
nobody can come in with weapons.
Yeah, exactly. And he has to even bribe the guy and then speak this other dude's name to get into the city as well.
Right. It's kind of like getting into the club, having to spit the DJ's or the promoter's name in order to get in.
Right, that's a really good analogy.
But he didn't really know him.
He didn't.
So he kind of snuck in, and then they have to go to a blacksmith in order to get these swords. And the blacksmith, what was his name?
Attius.
He was a little bit hesitant.
Exactly, hesitant.
He was definitely hesitant to help them, and it looked like him and Gannicus had a relationship, like they were friends, right?
They were friends prior, before the whole rebellion happened.
But he definitely wasn't trying to help him because, for fear of his own life.
Oh, yeah. All he cares about is his own life and coin. And they were able to give him some coin.
They persuaded him with coin.
Well, how much was it that they gave him?
They settled on 5,000 denarii at the end.
That was at the end to get him to join their cause. And at first, he only took a couple hundred, I think, for each of the swords that he made for them. But all they needed was 2 swords because all of the guards inside the city were just using maces or these cudgels, these things that are like batons pretty much.
Right.
And they were against 2 swords wielded by awesome rebel gladiators. They were able to, they didn't defend themselves.
But I love how confident they are. 2 swords and we'll be able to take over the city.
Exactly. And outside the city, we have Crixus, and Agron, that's his name. Agron, Nasir, Navia, all the other generals are outside with the rest of the rebel army, thousands, like tens of thousands of rebels.
Right, ready to come and prepare. They're preparing for battle. And we see that the outside of the walls, there's tons of them. Like, I can't believe how crazy and enormous this army has grown to be able to fight them. I mean, Spartacus has really done a good job of building his team.
He has a lot of manpower on his side, but the question is how much of that is usable manpower, how much of it is actual fighting power, because they have so many women and children with them as well.
Well, it looks like they're getting trained though pretty well, because it opens up on the first scene with us seeing Navia fighting the butcher.
Yeah.
And
what was his name again?
Adele. No.
Diotimus.
Diotimus.
Yes.
Diotimus. And he was the butcher. And so it shows that no matter what position you're in, you're going to learn how to fight. So, and then you're going up against Navia, who's been trained, by one of the most, amazing gladiators as well. So her fighting skills are supreme now. And so, she says something, it's not as easy as, killing a cow or something like that.
Butchering a horse. And he said the kick of the horse is much more gentle than hers.
Right. And I'm just so proud of her fighting skills, but it looks as if they're getting trained now. So in order to join the Spartacus gladiator army, you have to be trained at some point.
Yeah, actually, speaking of his army, I wanted to bring up some of the other commanders that we don't get to see very often, and they're kind of new to this season. Spanus, he's that big, kind of fat black guy. Do you remember him? No? He was the one that was in the tent with Gannicus.
Oh, yes.
And then he made an appearance this time, too. He wanted to kill the Romans that remained in the city.
Yes, he's kind of a new character that's introduced to us. I haven't seen him before.
So Spanus, and then we also have Nemetes. And he was the one that was at his side that also wanted to kill the Romans in the city. and he has got longer hair, a little bit of a beard. These two represent, I feel like, the guys who are kind of insolent, like they want to do their own thing, and Spartacus has to like control them, kind of like what not Gannicus, what Crixus was before with the Gauls, right? With all his men on the side. So we have these new guys who they're probably going to mess things up in the future, which is going to be interesting. We also get introduced to Laeta in this episode.
Yes.
And she's a Roman noblewoman, and her husband is the Adel. We don't know what that is, of the city.
The man in charge of the grain.
The man in charge of the grain, perhaps. Like maybe it's the commerce guy in the city, like the chief of commerce or something.
And we see her be kind to Spartacus. And I don't know about you, but I kind of felt as if her softness, her innocence, Spartacus took a fondness to, because when it came time to overpower the city, he spared her life.
He did, and a bunch of other Romans too. A clutch of Romans.
And because he knew that he could use it in order to persuade her husband, but at the same time, I think that he spared her because he likes her as well. I kind of can see, and this is another AfterBuzz prediction, him falling for her now that her husband is gone, her seeking comfort in Spartacus's arms.
I could see a little bit of a romance developing there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be pretty interesting when that happens. Also, I want to talk about how Spartacus. There was the stoning that was happening like near the beginning of the episode. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That one slave, Laeta, actually was defending the slave, and she didn't want that to happen to him. She was just like,
she has a heart. She's kind.
She has a heart. She has a fondness towards the slaves, and she doesn't want them to be treated with cruelty.
Right.
But then we see the slave getting stoned. No one can do anything about it. The Loris of the city, he's telling everybody to stone him. Spartacus throws a huge stone.
Takes him out of his misery.
Put him out of his misery.
And it crushed his skull. It just slit right in half.
It split it like down the center. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was an intense scene. And what is a little bit different this episode too, we didn't see as much sex and we didn't see as much blood and guts. Usually there's a lot more blood spilled. This episode was more, I think, storyline preparation, kind of building us and to prepare us for the next episode, which I'm kind of unsure, from the previews what's going to happen with that as well. It didn't give us that much to me.
It's going to be kind of weird, I feel. We can probably talk about that more in predictions.
Yeah.
But actually, Spartacus was really another kind of powerful scene was Spartacus was so hurt internally by what happened because they invaded the city. But that city doesn't just have Romans in it. There's slaves there too who are working.
Right.
And there was that little slave girl, I forgot her name, Massilinia, something like that. He had like a little scene with her where he was showing some kindness towards her, and her mom got killed later on. He saw their bodies laying there in the town square.
Well, that's what I was wondering. How is he going to take over this city with not killing innocent civilians? And unfortunately, you have no choice when you're dealing with battle. Innocent people are going to die. But it's just that there is a chance that they could rise up against you as well. And so
I don't think there's enough of those slaves who are mad at him though, to raise up against him in that city.
But I'm saying that, just the normal civilian, the Romans, just the normal civilian Romans, if they would choose to, they can grab a weapon and fight up against the gladiators, Spartacus's army. But obviously there was no threat, and that's why he spared those few people. But it's just sad that the innocent have to die. I thought that they were just going to kill the military or just kill the army, the Roman army, in order to take over the city.
That's what actually makes it so difficult back then. We can see that everybody is wearing like almost the same colors, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's wearing just these dark, deep colors, like browns and whites, and then they're in the mud. You can't tell what side they're on, right? So that's why, like, even back then, during battles, like big engagements between different armies, like even other armies like Germanic barbarians versus the Romans, they had a lot of friendly fire. Friendly fire being like, oh, I accidentally stabbed my fellow comrade just because he's covered in mud and I can't tell what he looks like, So that's probably what happened to all those innocents who died during this battle in Sinuessa. Anyway.
Another scene that was pretty intense was the spear through Adele's heart.
Oh, the Adele's heart.
Yeah.
No, his mouth.
His mouth. Oh, yeah, it was his mouth. Yeah, you're right. It was his mouth.
He gave head to a spear.
He did give head to a spear. That's okay. That is Sean's spicy comment of the night. No, but what was sad was that we see that she is pleading with her husband, and I think that he was going to listen to her and actually oblige, her commands or her requests. And unfortunately, Spartacus was like, "Oh, we just can't, take the risk."
Yeah, he can't take the chance.
And so the spear goes through his mouth, and it's just another innocent that had to die.
Yeah, and that was actually, you were laughing at that scene because it was like so intense with the torch dropping, and I thought it was actually going to set the whole thing ablaze.
Yeah.
But Crassus is there, thankfully, and he catches it at the last second.
And I was laughing at that because I was just like, "Come on, really?" You just caught that. Come on.
Yeah.
It was a torch and it was on fire.
Yeah.
You caught a torch on fire.
Yeah.
But, it's Spartacus and I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with it. Plot development, hell.
Yeah, because it would have been disastrous had it lit on fire. And so I am happy that he caught it. But I just thought that was an unrealistic part of the scene.
Yeah. And now they're able to be fed. They have shelter in this whole city throughout the winter, and we're going to see what happens with that. But let's talk about the AFTERBUZZ TV store. And I actually just visited it recently, and you guys should too. Go ahead and go to the homepage, check out. It's in the top left portion of the page, like near the banner. Click on that, and you can get some cool stuff there. We have shirts for men and women. We got some mugs. We got bags, other AFTERBUZZ goodies. So just go ahead and check that out over there. And if you want to have a part of AFTERBUZZ and have us in your life more often, when you're drinking coffee and whatnot, having some beers, then you may definitely enjoy visiting our ABTV store.
Yeah, and if you buy anything, take a picture of it, tweet it at us, That's also another way to stay connected with us. Send us your photos of you in your AFTERBUZZ gear.
Yeah, speaking of tweets, I wanted to mention our big fans who've been tweeting at us this week. Boy Marvel, he's one who's been tweeting at us a lot. So thank you very much, Boy Marvel. I hope I got back to you with some of the comments that I said and tweets at you. Same thing with Crow Boy.
Oh yeah, Crow Boy.
And where's that guy from? It looks like he's like, I want to say like, Norwegian or some kind of like
I have
Netherlands
no idea.
guy.
Yeah, that's what I get the impression of. Also, we got to give a shout out to Gina and Mixers, or it looks like Jen and Mixers, but it's Mir. Her name is Mir, M-E-R, but her Twitter handle is it looks like it's Jen and Mixers. But she was tweeting at us, and she was really disappointed because we said that we predicted that Nasir was going to die. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a spoiler, and I can't believe you told me this."
Oh,
but that
what's
was
a
just
prediction?
But just to confirm and for your own sanity, that was just our opinion and just prediction. No, we don't know yet. We don't have the necessarily inside tip that he's gonna die. But that was just an AFTERBUZZ prediction. So don't worry. We don't know, just like you don't.
That's what we do on the show, Miri. That's like part of the fun of being here at AFTERBUZZ.
But she's sent me like 3 tweets like, "Oh my gosh, you spoiled it for me." I was like, no, it's not confirmed. That was just a prediction.
Yeah, that's what we do at the end of every episode here at AFTERBUZZ TV. For all our after shows, we do predictions because we want to exercise our minds and see where the writers are going with this. We enjoy the ride too, but we want to like kind of guess, and it makes it more fun. It like adds another dimension to watching the show.
Right.
And that's why we're super fans.
Right. We think we know, but we really have no idea. We're guessing just like you guys are.
So let's go ahead and do our favorite quotes, and after that we will move into news and gossip, which I just have a couple of things.
And I just wanted to mention that at the end of the scene that we do see, at the end of the episode, that we do see Tiberius gets the title that he's been wanting. We see that Marcus Crassus defends his son, and he's like, it's my son. I'm going to give him the power, and
he gives him that really nice gladius sword.
And so I'm happy for Tiberius, but at the same time, Caesar feels threatened now that he has to be underneath a boy. He has to answer to a boy, he says. But really, all along, Tiberius is going to find out that I think he's not really in the position of power that he thinks he is.
What's actually interesting is to Crassus, it seems like he has 2 sons in a way. Both of them are vying for power.
Right.
And he's trying to make both of them happy because he needs both of them.
Yeah, he does. He definitely does.
It's very interesting. Well, the first quote I have is, Jupiter, fuck me. And that's Adius, the blacksmith, to Gannicus when they see each other. It's been a long time. Jupiter, fuck me.
Anything with Jupiter is funny to me on Spartacus. Speak plainly, I grow tired of mystery. This was Caesar and Marcus Crassus' conversation. And I think I might use that in my everyday conversation.
Yeah, I actually like that too.
Also, a spicy scene was when Corey asks Caesar about his wife. She says, "You were taken with wife," and he replies, "Your eyes stand as my wife's." So obviously, we know that he's married. I'm wondering if his wife is going to be introduced to us later. But we see, like we had mentioned, that he wants Corey, and so I like that was his excuse. Is like, "Oh, but I see her in you."
Well done, Caesar.
What else do you have?
I do not pose question as master, but as a man. And that was to Corey from Crassus when he was like trying to make her feel like, hey, like we're equals.
Right.
Like I'm not your dominus and you're not my slave.
And that's why I think that it's a love relationship. I think that they do love each other.
Absolutely. And I like that about Crassus, how he doesn't put down the slaves. He doesn't say like, oh, it's just because you're a fucking
nicer,
slave.
Right? He's way nicer than
Batiatus.
Batiatus was a jerk.
He always thought he wanted so much power all the time and wealth. But we have someone here, we have Crassus, who he doesn't have as much power. He has a lot of power because of his wealth. But he's so wealthy, it's like, you know what? Like, I don't need to be on top of everybody.
He seems more confident than Batiatus did. And Batiatus just lived under the shadow of his father. So I think he was always trying to prove something. Whereas I think Marcus doesn't have anything to prove to anyone. He just stands firm in who he is.
And it's all personal goals for him. It's not goals in society. Like,
right.
I want to be bigger than people. It's, I want to do this because this is what my mind is set to.
Right. Tiberius and his mother have a conversation, and I thought that this quote from her was very important. I fear he favors another, and then she replies, "Then you stand as your mother, bound by blood and inconsiderate of worth."
Yeah, I thought
that was pretty touching because she felt the same thing that he does as far as less than to Marcus. And so I thought that from that they were going to tag team and possibly turn against Marcus when they see that both, are less than. And I think that still might be an AfterBuzz prediction. We'll get to it. But I think that that's still potential for that as well.
Yeah, that very well may happen in the future. My dominance is dead. Then I shall follow him to the afterlife and piss upon his shadow.
I knew you were going to get that one.
That was good. That was from Diotimus, the butcher, when he died, killed by his master, the Laura. And lastly, I have Jupiter's fucking cock. That made a comeback.
And we heard a lot of people yelling that at the actual sneak preview that we got to see for the screening of Spartacus.
That's right, at the screening, the LA screening for Spartacus.
So does that wrap up our quotes?
I think that does wrap up our quotes. Let's go ahead and move into news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So the news that I think is big, because I'm a big action movie fan, is that Jai Courtney, aka Varro, who was Spartacus's best friend in season 1, the actor Jai Courtney is going to be in the A Good Day to Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis as the star of the movie.
So we have to go see that. We got to go support it.
I absolutely have to go see it. I love Bruce Willis. He's still kicking ass, even though he's old. Like
80 years later.
Yeah, he doesn't even look that old.
No, he looks really good.
And he started making the Die Hard movies in the 80s.
80s,
right?
yeah, I think it was the 80s.
It went from the 80s, him doing that film and that yippee-ki-yay motherfucker. It's proliferated through American culture.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows that line,
Right.
And the great tagline for this new movie coming up, because it takes place in Russia, is yippee-ki-yay, mother Russia.
That's going to be super cute. Yeah, we have to see that. If you are Spartacus fans, you want to go support that so that you can
see Jai Courtney, see Varro at work again. And he plays Bruce Willis's character, John McClane's son.
Right.
So that's going to be.
And that's a great role for him. I'm wondering if being a part of the Spartacus cast helped launch his career and get him that role possibly.
Oh, I think it did.
Yeah, that's.
Spartacus, like anybody who's on Spartacus, they're going to be exploding. Like after this season is done, because it's going to be the last season. After this is done, everybody's going to get better work somewhere. I know it.
Oh, definitely. I predict that as well.
Not that Spartacus wasn't a good show. It's a great show, but they're going to get good work other places to watch.
Definitely. Is that all for our news and gossip?
And, I actually think that is about it.
Oh, good. Let's go into AfterBuzz predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, so I had mentioned earlier that I see Marcus Crassus and I see his wife and Tiberius getting together and kind of plotting against Marcus, because I think that Tiberius is going to realize that his power is not what he thinks that it is, that he's really still kind of following under Caesar. And so him and his wife are going to devise a plan in order to take Marcus down, or they're going to either align with Spartacus. There's going to be something where they threaten Marcus' power. And I also see there's a possibility of Caesar killing, because he knows that Core is, pretty much the lover of Marcus. I see him possibly killing Core.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I think there's a real love there with his slave. So I totally see him taking her out of the equation just to be hurtful and spiteful.
I hope that doesn't happen, because I like Core. She's cute. She's got an amazing body.
She has really nice tits.
She's really nice. I don't want to see her go, for something that stupid like Caesar, killing her for that.
But what we don't see in this season is evil between the women. Usually we see more evil between the women. Like, I can't even predict that the wife would take Core out and kill her herself or anything like that, because they are not as evil as Lithia and Lucretia was.
Yeah, I feel like Crassus's wife, she's more of a benign character. Like, she doesn't have that much influence over a lot of people. She's just kind of there in the house. She's almost like a housewife, pretty much.
Almost why it may be surprising if we see her rise up in a little bit of power.
I feel like Tiberius and Caesar are going to butt heads a lot more, especially during the battles that are going to be coming. I feel like Caesar is going to go undercover, and that's what he's going to be used for, with his facial hair like that. Because no one really knows what each other look like.
Right.
I wonder what name he's going to use when he goes undercover.
So you predict he's going to go undercover?
I feel like he is.
Okay.
And obviously we're going to see pirates coming in the next episode. I predict that the next episode is not going to be very good.
You don't think so?
No, it sounds lame with the whole pirate thing coming.
Yeah, I think it might be cool, though. We haven't seen this on Spartacus before, so it's a new element that's being thrown into the mix. I think that Spartacus is going to probably get him a little booty action with Leda.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to have a little spark. And we were introduced to a slave girl that was let free, that had this look in her eyes when she saw Gannicus come in.
That's right.
And so I kind of see that. I wonder if she's going to be brought back into the picture.
Her name's Sybil. That's the character's
Sybil,
name.
okay.
So we're going to see her probably have more love with Gannicus.
I think there's going to be something there, yeah.
That's going to be interesting. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on our AfterBuzz TV show podcast for Spartacus. You can follow me at Sean Austino on Twitter.
And you can play with my Twitter at spicy_Mari. That's SPICY_MARI.
And we hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll catch you again next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.